I didn't think I would have to do this, but congrats on the regular season.
Oh, my God.
Thank you.
It's a great regular
Did you
season.
concede?
Well, there's no concession needed, man. The votes are in. We won Hazenbro +7 on the year.
+7.
We won by a touchdown.
Dude, and the thing is, if you didn't know, at one point, a significant portion of the season in, you were down 9.
Yes. Getting crushed.
And put Al's brother on waivers.
He was
a week away from never coming back.
And here's the thing. It's a season-long race, right? It's a lot of fun. It is infuriating when you can't pick a winner because the group chat, like these two guys, when we were down, we were in a dark place. This guy's FaceTiming us all the time. And Luke is on Twitter talking about bots and frauds. I got people stopping me in the street being like, you stink.
Well, your partner's not much better.
He's way worse swinging back the other way.
And Jamie, you would think a guy, like you could go for a dig and you can chirp, but when there's one guy that played in the NFL who's like 6'7" and who's a stud, you would think he would lay off a little bit. I'll give Al's brother credit. He goes right for the throat, man. He doesn't care.
Does not care.
No, he doesn't care.
He's one of those guys.
He'll be like, hey, Lukey. Yeah. Lukey, he calls him.
Yeah. Lukey, nice pick.
Yeah.
Nice pick. Lukey.
He's got some stones in that respect. I'll give him that.
He steps in, man.
He doesn't care.
He took a lot. He was beansy for a long time. Before Luke came around, remember I used to just give it to him.
Oh, he was the cooler.
He was the cooler.
Well, he was my partner, and I would be like, dude, this is on you. Like, you got to know this stuff better than me.
You would have that.
Ice cold.
The tweet. You would have to have the picture of
Beansy
in a neck brace in a hospital.
That was the extreme pick.
Yeah.
Right? The first pick was the smiling Beansy was early in the season. And when Al's brother had lost 10 in a row, he was in the hospital.
Okay, so let's just put this onto the table.
Yeah.
You guys, because this was a debate last year. What is more important, the season-long race, or is it going to be the playoffs?
Well, I think
because last year I think you guys won the playoffs last year,
and we lost in the regular season.
But so what's it going to be? What has more value?
I guess the regular season. Now that we've won it, I mean, now that we're in the winner's circle, I would suggest that a season-long race means a little bit more. It's like the Premiership, right? Or it's like the FedEx Cup. Like it's a long year. Yet it isn't. We do live in North America, and my argument was last year we are a playoff continent. Right? Yep. That's generally how we operate. What do you do in the playoffs really matters. So I think for Al's brother and I to really step up and make a point that we are, supreme when it comes to making picks on this show, we have to follow up and we've got to win in the playoffs.
Because I think you have to win in the playoffs because if they win, they're just going to go, well, we won when it matters. And then...
That's exactly what they did last year.
I understand that.
That's what you said last year when they won the regular season, right?
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't going to give them their due. And,
right. So the point being is I think somebody has to push through and double down. Because if you don't double down, then it's technically a tie because one group is going to say, well, we won the regular season. We're regular season heroes. And the other guys are going to go, doesn't matter. We won the playoffs when it matters.
No, I want the playoffs to count for two units.
Well, now that you're in that
regular
position.
Season's 1 unit, playoffs is 2 units. It's like It's like having a press in golf. It's like I don't want to just break. I want to go on top of it and win it all.
Okay, listen, we're willing to put. We're seeing the board very clearly, and we feel very good about where we're at. And let's establish something, okay? Because there's a couple of different variations we're going to put on the playoffs and how we operate here. We're going to play some totals, which allows you to rack up a few more points. The point system's going to be a little bit different. But last year, when you guys won the regular season, you got to pick the games you wanted to pick.
Right.
That will carry over this year.
Okay.
All right, so we got 6 games, wild card weekend. Al's brother and I are going to pick the 3 we want to play.
Are there some absolute locks, you think?
There's one guy that could step in the way of that, though.
If you smell what the
Luke Willson
is cooking.
His new name is the Commish or something.
The Canadian Commish.
The People's Commish, he calls himself now.
Yeah.
Partsy,
what is going on?
Can you explain the People's Commish?
Yes, I can. Partsy, first off, it's good to hear your voice.
Yeah, man, I missed you, pal, and I'm sorry about what happened. I'm sorry that we did this to ourselves.
Don't worry, Partsy. I've got a lot to say today. But the People's Commish, I'm now the Players Commish. I had to retire as a People's Commish.
Okay.
I sat here and I watched the World Juniors, and I will say, Parts, you were electric on TSN. But outside of that, there was not much electric things going on there. What happened to hockey? What happened? Maybe you can explain it to me.
Well, we were just saying, Partsy, how we need somebody to oversee things and the selection committee, and for the players to get out there and be electric. Maybe the Players Commish is the guy to oversee the hockey team.
Listen, I will gladly do that, but this is what I'll say. And you tell me where the lie is here. When I think of 1972 in the Summit Series, I watched that in school when I was probably 10 years old. Mm-hmm. And what everybody forgets is when Bobby Clark came by and broke Buddy's ankle. You know?
Yeah.
Where's that guy? Where is that in Canadian hockey?
Well, Partsy, I hate to interrupt you, but I think that is ridiculous to think that would be necessary. But we talk about part of the fabric of Canadian hockey is just some toughness. Like, run somebody over. How about we start with that? Save the ankle breaking for the regular season in the CHL. But let's just start with some team toughness, Partsy.
I agree, and that's why I said the CFL's got a shot here. Now, I don't think they're going to do it, especially based off the backlash I got. But I'm like, people still like toughness, and you can see it through the TV. When you turn on a sporting event, regardless of the sport, and I'm being serious for a sec, and you got guys that are really trying, and it's a very physical endeavor, and there's bodies flying everywhere, and there's pure carnage. To me, that's what brings fans, with the combination of talent, skill, etc. And that's what, as much as you want to dog the NFL for weird, quirky things they've done, it is still a very violent game. You turned that game on yesterday, the Anzalone hit on Jahmyr Gibbs, my goodness.
Parts, you won a Super Bowl, man. You know you won a Super Bowl. How much, like every snap, how much guys put into it. And if you get to the finish line, how much, like, it means so much more when you get a team like you had in Seattle. And you talked about Pete and the leaders and what they put into it and the physicality. And day after day, it's worth it at the end of the line.
1,000%. And it's funny because I sit here and I got to be very careful what I say now, but you go online and it just seems like, it's all about, let's promote this, let's do this. There's these videos floating around. Okay. And I'm like, what happened to the camaraderie, brotherhood, and bond in the locker room? And you said it, where you're out here taking the body, sacrificing yourself to win a ball game or a hockey game. It doesn't exist. You know where it can exist? The CFL, but we're stuck in 1800 with rugby rules. That's why the People's Commission is going to have to clean this thing up, and that's where the commission comes from. We got to adapt. I know there's some CFL hardos that don't want any changes, but the reality is, if you want new eyes, which is going to potentially bring new money to that league, you've got to adapt with the times. And people want to see fast, violent football. We do not love punting. We do not love 2-and-outs. And I'll end my rant because I'll probably be crucified by some CFL hardo online about how it's the real rugby rules and I'm making the game gimmicky.
Well, I that's where I was going to go. All of a sudden, I'm reading Twitter, and you are just in one fighting with a bunch of CFL fans. Like what happened there? Because I think I honestly feel like you were trying to help, and then why did you upset so many fans? Like they just don't believe in the 2-and-out, 3-and-out. They believe in punting. Like where was the disconnect between you and the fan base?
Noodles, I'm glad you asked me that because I sit here and when I put that out there, I was like, this should create a little bit of buzz for the CFL. My intentions were very pure. I know a lot of guys in the CFL. I like them, and I think there's a lot of talented football players in that league, and I think the league can grow. And what I was met with, not by everybody, but like you said, by a lot of CFL fans, were basically shut the hell up and stay in your lane and go away. So at that point, I was like, how did this, tweet that was supposed to help out backfire into the most absurd amount of idiots I've ever had in my life coming after me?
Is that the one tweet that made you the Players Commission instead of the People's Commission?
Well, it's funny. You're going to laugh. I got a call. This is what it's funny is I got a call from 2 or 3 players that I know. And they're like, man, the entire league feels the same way that you do. And there's a lot of issues we have as players. But the reality is you've got these CFL gurus, if you want, that wants to keep the game in the Stone Ages because it's part of Canadian history or whatever. And again, I understand that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but they need to realize at the end of the day, by us not progressing football and I'm not saying you got to make it the NFL, please, that's what I'm saying, but by them not trying to progress in advance, the guys who suffer are the players that are in there in terrible facilities, not getting paid as much as they should for being pro athletes and risking their body every week. So that's kind of been my rant, and I'm dying on this hill on Twitter right now. As Noodle said, I'm defending the trolls for the sake of the players. Now I've graduated the Players Commish.
All right. Well, in terms of the National Football League, where do you stand on the coaching turnover? Black Monday, they call it. Gerard Mayo's out in New England. Doug Peterson's out in Jacksonville. That's not a surprise. Mayo is one and done. I mean, one season and he's out. Chicago's going to be looking for a coach. The Jets are looking for a coach. Like, there's some vacancies out there. Any of these spots, do you find any of them compelling? Any of them stick out in terms of where you would go if you were a coach looking for a job?
So, hey, it's tough because I don't know owners like I should. But when I come to rosters and things that I look at, to me, and this might be crazy for a lot of people to hear, but it's the Chicago Bears. You know, I look at this roster. The defense should be good. They were good 2 years ago. They had very good games this year at times, especially early. And then I go to the offensive side of the ball, and I say, okay, you stroll out here with Keenan Allen, who had a great year for them. I know he's an older guy, but had a really good year. Rome Odunze is supposed to be a perennial talent. You know, he had flashes this year. And the whole season was a bit of a fire sale on offense. DJ Moore is probably the most underrated receiver in the league. So now all of a sudden you put Caleb Williams in there, you get him a real coach, you get him a real football culture, and maybe you turn this thing around. Now, the thing I do worry about is the quote-unquote culture of that team. Like, there's some bad body language by a lot of different guys. I think the Bears as an organization has obviously struggled. But I think from a roster standpoint, I don't believe that roster is that far away. Where on the flip side, like, I look at New England, and I do have very high hopes for Drake May, and I think he can be a great player in this league. But after that, offensively, I don't like Stevenson's a good back, Gibson's a good back. These guys are not, perennial stars by any means. You look at the wide receivers, nobody really jumps out of the film. I would be very nervous if I was a coach going to New England, unless my name was Mike Vrabel, because Vrabel will probably get the, Patriot way back going and win with a less talented roster and a more disciplined team.
In terms of what we saw last night, Detroit, I thought that was a significant statement by them. I was thoroughly impressed with the way they played, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. Even
the last game like that, I know that first place was up for grabs, but you put that much stake into it, huh?
I do, because of what was on the line. Like, there's a huge difference between the 1 seed and the 5 seed. The Vikings have to go to the Rams now. They got to play L.A. on a Monday night. Like, Matt Stafford's waiting for him. Sean McVay's waiting for him. And now Detroit can sit pretty, and they got home field throughout. I thought it was that was a playoff game last night, and the Lions showed up for it, and I didn't think the Vikings did. Sam Darnold didn't look great. I mean, what are your takeaways from what we saw last night?
So, hey, the most concerning thing for me is definitely Sam Darnold. The Lions are an incredible team, obviously, and they have a great, great offense. And when they get ahead, they can really pour it on, which they did yesterday. Where they're potentially weaker, they're still obviously very strong, is in those tight games, or even if they're trailing, because then you don't feel as comfortable calling those run plays. And I sit here and say, like, man, early in this game, Minnesota's defense did well, caused 2 turnovers, made some stops, and Sam Darnold just missed throws. And I know that, throwing the ball in the NFL is not easy, but if you want the 1 seed, you have to make those throws. All the red zone failures, again, tip your cap to Detroit for that. And then the next thing I'll say that I thought was a huge momentum swing, because I got to take my shots at kickers, but you go down there at the end of the first half, you kick a field goal to go 7-6, there's 20 seconds left, and my guy kicks the ball out of bounds. I will guess right now that there is probably 3 million people on planet Earth or more that could go into that situation and not kick a kickoff out of bounds, including everybody on the show. And what happens?
Including
the Lions go, take the ball on the 40, and couple plays, they had one timeout, and they raced the field goal. I thought it was a huge momentum swing. And then later on, the kid misses a 57-yarder when they desperately needed him to make it. And I get it's far. I understand that. But now all of a sudden, Jared Goff and the Lions have a short field. I was sitting over there. The producer of Jay Onright's show, who's a big Vikings guy, said, we're cooked. This thing's done. And a couple plays later, the game's out of control. So, the Lions are that good. You can't make mistakes, which is a testament to them. But I do think if you're a Vikings player right now or in that front office, you're probably a little sick because you really helped the Vikings out in a lot of ways that you shouldn't have.
Partsy, last year, your confidence level in Dan Campbell was basically below zero. You're like, this guy's going to do something stupid. Yeah. Where are you at this year, the following year? Like, do you still think that there's a chance in a big moment, in a big game? We saw it with that, what was it, a fake kick return, and like with 2 minutes left a couple weeks ago. It was ridiculous. Like, what is your confidence level that this guy's not going to be a donkey come playoff time?
So it still falters, and I think he's by far coach of the year. You tip your cap. He's the best coach in Lions history, in my opinion, and I know he hasn't been there that long. But there was a moment last night that kind of gets passed over because they won the game by so much. But you're kind of sitting there and you're thinking, hey, man, you still are playing Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, T.J. Hawkinson. Your defense still has had issues at times. And the Lions were up 15. And it was a fourth down again. And I sat there and was like, I get that you go for it on fourth down here. That's your MO. But you kick a field goal, the game's over. I believe it was in the fourth quarter. You go up 18. You're 3 scores clear now. You've made the Vikings completely one-dimensional. And you're winning that game unless something outrageous happens. And we go for it on fourth down. And now they get it, and they end up scoring a touchdown. And I sit here and I say to myself, hey, it looks great. And they score, and now it's even more. But in the same breath, it's like, man, if you don't get that first down and Sam Darnold hits Jefferson for a goal ball, which is not an unrealistic situation with that type of talent, and now all of a sudden your 15-point lead is 8, and if you went for 2, it's 7, and the game's completely flipped. So where I get nervous about him in the playoffs is if they get up on whomever, and they've got a chance, like a simple short chip shot field goal to put them away, sort of like they had last year against San Fran, and they decide, like, no, we're a fourth down team, we're going to go for it, and it burns them, I think it's going to be tough. So I do worry about that. But then the same breath, Partsy, they are so good right now. Does one coaching decision matter? I guess we'll see. But yesterday was definitely a very impressive outing.
What I found interesting is they actually triggered an offside last night at the end of the game to effectively put it away when it was it 4th and 2 or whatever. And that was because Minnesota clearly is like they're actually going for it. Like, they're not trying to draw us offside. You know what I'm saying? Like, so many teams, it's just fraudulent. They're wasting people's time. Right. You're going to go out and you're going to try your hard counts and you're going to try to get people to go offside, but you're actually not fully committed, and the defense sniffs it out. Dan Campbell has thrown off the opposing coach to the point where they actually think they're going for it on 4th and short.
Yeah, he has.
And it benefited them last night. It is. I don't know if that'll carry over in the playoffs, but it actually worked last night. That game was probably over anyway. Totally. But that I find interesting is that as much as he could self-implode and do something stupid to screw over the Lions, I do think his unpredictability and his riverboat gambling can actually mess with the opposing coach a little bit too, Luke.
Yes, and that's a great point. And what I'd say, too, about that moment was in that second half, obviously the Lions had run the ball so well and they were getting so much push. Now, part of that, I think they just wore that defense down. But now all of a sudden you're sitting there on 4th and 2, and you're like, hey, we've ran the ball down this team's throat. The D-line is just like, hey, it's all hands on deck. As soon as I hear the snap count, I got to get off the ball and try and not get driven back. You pull the double count or the hard count, and now you give them a free 5 yards. It's the most demoralizing thing in football, especially on 4th down.
Right.
So there's definitely another avenue to look at the gambling where if you're feeling it and you make the right call, it can help you out a lot as well.
With Luke Willson, we'll get you out of here on Tyreek Hill.
I know, man.
Who pulled the shoot?
He's out. Quit.
Pulled the shoot in the fourth quarter last night. Like that story by all accounts, like McDaniel said after the game, he was just told he's not available anymore in the fourth quarter, but not due to injury.
Yeah.
So it sounds as if Tyreek Hill basically made a business decision. Game was over. They were done. Denver had already won. I think they were aware of that, so they weren't going to the playoffs in Miami. But it sounds like Tyreek Hill pulled the shoot in the fourth quarter, and then after the game said, "I'm out. Like I don't. Basically, I got to go somewhere where I can compete." He's a wild card at the best of times, worst of times. He's not a young guy anymore.
I don't know if he's worth the hassle
That's
anymore.
and can he like this year now? Tua being injured affected him, Luke, big time. But he was not anywhere close to as explosive. He was not an effective player this year, like to the level that he's been in the past.
Yeah.
Where do you see this going with Tyreek Hill?
No, a couple things. One, you can't do that. As a guy, I understand they're knocked out of the playoffs, but you can't do that and have any sort of winning culture in that locker room if you have him back next year, unless he gives some sort of grave apology, etc. We had a moment like that, and with a player in Seattle one year, it's kind of in the middle of the year, he was traded the next week for pretty much a Kit Kat bar. It was like you can't take yourself out of the game. That's just, it's like the cardinal rule of playing football in the NFL. If you're suited, you're going until you can't, no matter what the situation is. So to hear that, it was very disappointing. I understand that he's angry and frustrated, and a couple things I would say is, like, one, not the time. Don't quit in fourth quarter. And two, like, in all fairness, this is a guy who could have taken less money and played with Patrick Mahomes, And
Yep.
I'm not the guy to sit here and say you should take less money, because it's, for him, it probably was $10-15 million bucks. That's a lot of cash.
Yeah.
But in the same breath, like, if you leave Andy Reid in Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes to go to greener pastures or to make more money, you can't be upset when it's not as fluid as things were. And then the last thing I'll say that scares me about Tyreek is, you look at it in the sense of, when I look at Justin Jefferson, I say, okay, obviously he's very young still, but he's tall, he's got great range, great hands, can run, that sort of thing. And sorry, I'm in Tofino right now, boys. I got people, they're big fans of the show. They're screaming at me.
Shout out.
I'll explain why I'm in Tofino. Okay, but you sit here and it's like, I think that he's not a one-trick pony. That'd be obviously ridiculous for me to say, but he's a little more limited. Like, when he loses his speed, he's not 6'5". He's not necessarily the most crispy route runner I've ever seen. So now all of a sudden it's like that one step is a big, big difference, where there's other guys that will be able to learn and kind of use other tools. So I do worry about him if he's not up to snuff in his own physical speed, or if he loses a step, how much that'll affect him.
Parts, I really want to thank you for doing this today, and I'd also like to mention, no matter what happens in the playoffs, I will never, ever want to be a teammate of Hayes or Bro. Like, it's me and you for the end of time, brother. I'll never go to the dark side.
I just want to say something to address that. First off, I love you, Parts. You're my guy. Secondly, I got to learn. I got to wear this year. It was a tough year. Now, don't be fooled. This is my first thing. I would say don't be fooled. If you ask Doogie, and I don't know if they can run the banner right now of individual records, we got jammed up by a couple pushes. I believe we lost to them. When it comes to total wins, I think they had one, maybe two more total wins.
I'll tell you what our record is right now.
do?
Let me tell you the record, all right? You guys were 29 and 26. 29 and 26.
31?
And we were 31, 21, and 2.
Yeah. Doogie's at Al's brother's house,
10 games have been
like
fine.
hunkered
Nice.
down, having chocolate chip muffins, talking about what games they want to do. Doogie is a fraud
They
and a
got-
punk.
And a scumbag. But what I'd say is, okay, what happened? Al's brother went and huffed some ayahuasca and ended up going on an absolute tear. I just said, I'm en route to Tofino for 5 days. And I did it for the sole purpose of cleansing the mind here, boys. I'm coming back on an absolute heater on Saturday. I'm not sure we'll miss a pick.
Well,
This thing, due to these new rules, this thing might be over Wild Card Weekend.
do you know what my partner's doing right now?
He's on a cruise.
He's literally on a cruise.
Is he on a cruise again?
Literally
You have
right
got
now.
him
actually.
jobbing me right now.
He is on a cruise right now.
How many cruises can one guy go on?
He
Although
said
I saw a documentary on TV a couple months ago, somebody said, me and my husband just live on the cruise ship.
Oh,
they don't come off.
You can live on that. It's like $20 a day on a cruise, man. You can just literally
Can you
cruise
imagine
the rest of your life
calorie
away.
intake if you lived on a cruise for a year?
It's just outrageous, the behavior happening on a cruise. I don't think he gets off the cruise. Like, he talks about these ports. I don't think he's ever stepped foot off the cruise.
Oh, no, he just stays on the boat.
Yeah,
right?
he's on the boat, and he's looking at his clock saying, can we leave? Like, get people back. He's not about culture. He's about cruising.
How many little sausage rolls do you think he stacks on a plate for an appy?
I don't know, man, but it helps him because he comes back with a clear mind.
He does.
A clear mind. And I think my partner and I are going to absolutely go on a heater. So you better bring your A stuff.
We will. We'll be
'Cause
there.
We're red hot. The way you guys stumbled down the stretch,
Was
that was
embarrassing.
pathetic. Pathetic, the way you guys are seeing the board right now. That's just a fact. Tofino or otherwise, Luke, you got to own it.
Listen, we'll put our money where our mouth is. I'll see you boys on Friday.
All right.
We'll make our picks, and just know that we're going to be hanging the real banner at the end of the year. Congrats on your first season win. Like I said, means nothing. We're ready to rumble.
All right. The hats are waiting for you guys. We got hats for you. You got to win something first to get them.
And I'll light that thing on fire right on the show.
You got to win something to get it. All right, Luke, enjoy yourself out there. Be good. We'll catch up with you later in the
All
week.
right. Cheers, guys.
There's Luke Willson joining us from Tofino, British Columbia. Wow. It's a hot spot out there, man.
Is that a casino?
What the hell's he doing out there? I don't know. Is that
Isn't
a big,
it like-
must be a big ski spot, is it?
2:30.
It is.
Friday, Monday afternoon.
It is skiing, but I also think in the summers it's like surfing and stuff. Like, it's
Oh, really?
Really,
Nice.
yeah.
Good spot to be.
Well, the guy who stepped down today,
Oh, he loves it out
loves
there.
it out
He's
there.
probably on a bird right now.
right to
Took about
Tofino.
5 questions and
Yeah.
said, see you later.
Because he loves Tofino. Like that's a.
That's
I
a
think
spot.
I know my buddy's
I
going.
saw him at Whistler when I was there.
Oh,
Yeah,
Trudeau's out there all the time.
Yeah, he loves the skiing.
He'll be out there a lot in the future.
Yeah.
You're going to see him a lot.
Good.
Either way, but it's Tofino is like a pretty cool area up there. I've only been there once, but I know a lot of outdoorsy people, which I'm not. They hang out.
That's the place to be?
It is the place to be.
BC's a beautiful spot.
Whistler, you go north, like you're right. Like we talked about the Canucks and all that being in one, but you go out to Vancouver, there's some beautiful things up and down the
Oh,
coast
yeah.
there.
We were talking about that a couple weeks ago, like annoying, different pockets of Canada that are annoying.
Yeah.
And like in Toronto, what I find is Torontonians go elsewhere in the country. And if there's not Toronto stuff elsewhere, it's like, where is this stuff?
Yeah. Where's the
Eaton Center? It's like
Yeah.
it's in Toronto. You're not there.
Yeah,
You know,
that's
like
true,
it's
yeah.
an arrogant
That's
vibe.
stupidity, though.
A lot of it is, but it is kind of
it's your home, what you're used to.
Exactly.
What you're
Like,
used
where
to.
is, you know, blah, blah. And the BC is like how beautiful. You have to accept how beautiful. We get it. It's a beautiful
It is
place.
beautiful.
It's a stunning
Yeah,
place.
like if you go skiing where I live in Collingwood,
yeah.
go to BC and it's a
Stunning.
dude.
You
It's
can't
a
even-
different
It's
world.
different. Yeah.
But if
can't
you
even-
talk to someone from Vancouver, it's like, have you been to Stanley Park? No, I'm sure it's a beautiful park. Well, you got to go to Stanley Park.
Yeah, you go jogging.
Okay, I'll try to get there if I can. Like, it's not. I don't know. We'll see what
Everyone's got their
happens.
spots. You
Everyone's
go
got
up to
their
Grouse
spots.
Mountain, you go up to Whistler. Like Whistler is a I
Beautiful spot.
Like,
Beautiful country up
Whistler is beautiful. I've
Beautiful
been
country.
there several times in Vancouver. My family lived there for a year, and I go out and
there. Can't
visit.
beat it.
But it rains a lot. And keep in mind,
It does
keep in
rain
mind,
a lot.
Like
Are they golfing out there in like the lower mainland? Like,
No, I think it's just rain.
I think but I don't know if you can.
Can you
golf
tee it in
that. I don't-
January?
I don't know.
I would
Somebody
think
from
maybe in
Vancouver let us
Victoria or
know.
something. I think if you get over to like Vancouver Island, I feel like maybe you can golf.
I should ask my brother. My brother's lived there for 100 years.
All right.
I should ask him. I don't know if they golf like year round.
I don't
think
know. I would think shut it down for a couple of months.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
there's no way they're waiting until April.
Should ask Ray. Ray lives there.
Ray lives there. Yeah, Ray would know. All right. Leafs back in action against Philly tomorrow. Danny Briere coming up in an hour, the GM of the Flyers. Danny will join us in about an hour. We got Chris Johnston coming up too.
And somebody sent in to you upon your request, which was a pleasant surprise this year, a tape of Max Pacioretty crushing guys.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. We will play that, and we'll get into what he's bringing to this team because he is throwing massive hits.
Yeah.
He got Sealer last night. Like that was old school, like
Was it
Darcy
shoulder to shoulder?
Tucker.
Was it old to
Like
shoulder to shoulder,
the time, a lot of hitting is timing.
Yeah.
The guy not being able to see the hitter. He is perfect perfectly timing
around the
Rushing guys.
Coming around the corner on guys.
Yeah, he's catching guys. So we'll get into Max. We'll play that. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, powered by FanDuel. So, Max Pacioretty, I was just looking this up quickly. Shout out to Rink Rat Report on Twitter, who did actually answer my request because he threw that hit on Sealer last night.
It was a big
It was a massive hit, and a lot of his hits are along the boards, and it's the guy who has the puck. It's not cheap. Obviously, you have to have the puck, but the point being is it's not like gets rid of the puck and then the guy's looking the wrong way and he buries him, or he's taking a pass and the guy buries him. A lot of it is the guy's got the puck, he's trying to come around the net or break through traffic, and Pacioretty lines him up and absolutely buries him. Like that hit on Sealer, that was a big hit.
Sealer's a big dude.
He's a big boy, and I was requesting that. I'm like, I need a Rock'em Sock'em type montage, which would be great if you could add the grapes like bang, keep your head up, kid. Remember those montages back in the day?
Well, what I like about it from Pacioretty's point of view is, I don't know if he was told, and it might have been Craig Berube, but he doesn't score enough nowadays for someone to tolerate a lack of. You got to bring something to the table.
You got to bring something else.
So he has realized for him to stay in this league or stay on this team, he doesn't score as much as he's not Max Pacioretty that was 25 years old scoring 38 goals for the Montreal Canadiens. And it was one of the things that always bugged me about him in the playoffs. He never played that physical.
Mm-hmm.
That was just what he brought to the table. And he's realized, I got to do this to stay on this team, on this line, in this league. And he's done it.
He has done it. It is almost every night he's throwing a big, big hit.
Because how many guys have you seen that try to stick around and they're like, I'm a goal scorer, I'm a goal scorer.
Yeah,
it's just like a guy trying to find a job in the same thing that they've done for years, but that's not available. You got to go in a different direction and adapt.
He's adapted, and he's found himself a role there, and he's played well in it. The only thing that derailed him was the injury. He was playing well before that injury, too. But he has found a different role for himself from what we remembered of him. Because I don't remember. I've been watching him for years. I don't remember him destroying guys.
Not to this extent.
Not to this
He'd
extent.
always get in the mix
He's
and
a strong guy.
agitate.
You've seen the guy's legs. They're the size of a tree trunk.
Yeah.
They're huge. He's a big guy, like physically. His legs, he's a very strong individual. But it seems like he's got some speed back in his game, too. That's kind of, now that he's healthy. For a couple of years, we watched him when he was in Washington. He didn't look good in Washington.
No, he didn't play. He didn't last long.
Running guys over in Washington.
No, it's a credit to him. And listen, he's in a scenario here where in the NHL, in the modern NHL, if you throw big hits, at times you have to fight.
Yeah.
What I think he has going for him are a couple of different things. One, as I was saying, a lot of it is like puck carrier coming up the boards and he's just getting you in a battle, as opposed to if a guy gets a pass where the guy who made the pass set him up, that guy always feels like I got to go fight now because I almost got my teammate killed. He's not doing that. It's not like middle of the ice crushing a guy with his head down.
Right.
It's not late. It's not elbow up. And he's got a veteran status to him.
You can say piss off. I don't have to fight you.
That the league has to kind of respect, right? Like if
that was never more apparent than that Jack Hughes hit, because anybody else would have got their head caved in for that one.
Right. And even last night, Sealer wasn't so happy.
That Sealer's a tough customer.
And Pacioretty stood up and said whatever he said and said, I'm out of here. But I think, if that's Matt Rempe, there's going to be an answer, clearly.
Right.
But if it's Pacioretty, it's been in the league for almost 20 years, former captain, clean hits. So you got to live with it, man. And I got a great appreciation for that because, to your point, he's not scoring at a crazy level, yet he's playing with Tavares and Nylander.
Right.
Like, he's got a great opportunity here, and that's what is going to be needed come playoff time. Like, if he's healthy and he's aggressive and he's smart and he's been in the fire many times in his career, it'll be very beneficial over maybe coming into the season you thought that could be Nick Robertson in that situation.
Well, do you know how many times in the playoffs, and I talk about it all the time because I've seen it so many times, a guy goes in and hits a guy like that, and it leads to a goal.
Yeah,
like blow up a defenseman, loose puck, somebody gets it out front. Like that's what leads to disruptions.
It's big time.
Yeah, you do. You need that type of physicality. You need that type of play, and Nyes throwing around this body. Like, listen, he's on a stretch now. He's on a heater. Was it 4 goals in
2 games? We had a hat trick Saturday and one last night.
He's playing great.
We got to confront Duthie, by the way, on physicality. He tried to show me up on the panel at the World Juniors.
What was he doing?
I brought up physicality, and he goes, "Oh, dog, that doesn't even work anymore these days." I was like,
well,
okay.
Maybe that was Team Canada's mentality, and that's why.
Next time we have him on, we got to call him out on it. He tried
Physicality, intimidation in a physical sport is
like
always going to count.
NFL, or does he like flag football, though, right? Because he's a flag football star.
He is,
So
but he loves
like
the NFL
physicality.
too. He should know that. Look at Detroit. They are tough as nails.
Well,
That Lions
San
team
Fran, though, is San Fran.
They were when they were winning. They had big offensive and
like,
defensive
wouldn't you say
lines.
Detroit's philosophy was toughness and physicality, and then skill came afterwards?
Absolutely. Like, clearly you have it. You have to have the combination of the two, but you've got to have a mentality that in the
Bite your
trenches,
kneecaps.
we're going to do whatever we have to do to beat you. That was Belichick's thing forever.
Yeah.
So many people would say the Belichick way, yes, you looked at Brady. Obviously, you needed Brady, clearly. I'm not downplaying Brady's importance. But you looked at those Pats teams, they were so tough.
Yeah.
They had offensive and defensive lines that were monsters. They had Rodney Harrison going around looking to kill people.
Sure.
And it's beneficial in a physical sport to have a reputation of that guy might hurt me.
Right.
I know a lot of people don't want to hear that or accept it, but it's a fact. Go ask the guys on the other team. This is what we talked about forever. Not that we need to revisit certain things of the past with certain trades, but you look at the PK Subban, like Shea Weber deal. It was like, well, look at PK, and PK could play tough and hit.
Right.
But Weber's value wasn't going to be he's going to score all these goals or do this or that. But talk to the opponents who they would prefer to meet in the corner.
Yeah.
Who would you prefer to go wide on,
Yeah.
PK or Shea? I know that's only an element of the game, but the fact is that matters for something.
I can bring
counts
you
for
one
something.
closer to home. Mason Marchment for Geno Malgin.
Exactly. You could look at certain numbers and skills, and in practice, Malgin might be running up and down and like, wow, toe drag this, saucer past that.
Yeah.
Go look at the guy who's 6'4", who's going to bury someone and go to the front of the net.
And score.
Yeah. And that's where, again, with this Maple Leaf team, and come the playoffs, and what you hope to see a little bit differently is the way you score in bunches in the playoffs is from in front of the net and creating turnovers with physicality and getting in on forechecks. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, you might have some blowouts. You might have some nights in the playoffs that turn into a bit of a track meet and you win it 7-2.
Yeah, that's going to happen
Those
too.
are one-offs.
Those are
and you
one-offs,
do have to find ways to do that. The Maple Leafs, I found, they didn't have great goaltending the last couple nights, and they realized we better put some pucks in the net. That's just like the playoffs. Sometimes you're going to have to put up a 6 spot. But for the most part, it's a race to a 3-2 game.
Generally speaking, that's what it is in the playoffs.
Yeah, the majority is a 3-2 game, 2-1. It's like, what do you got in those games for the big chunk?
When
of
you
it.
get the best teams playing, like even again using the football game as an example last night, it was 10-6 at the half. I thought it'd be a shootout last night, but both teams showed up. Minnie and Detroit saying we got to play tough. Like, you got to pay attention to detail. You got to defend. You got to sell out. And that's where with the Leafs through 41 games, I've been thoroughly impressed with their professionalism. It's been quiet. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, but they've just kind of gone about their business as a veteran team that plays physically. They block shots. They score goals. They haven't scored at an explosive level, but it's been enough to win.
Yeah.
Well,
the 5-on-5, if they can pick up the 5-on-5, look, there's never going to be a perfect.
It's never going to be perfect.
But what the biggest surprise for me is the goaltending's held up. That's the biggest thing.
Yes. And Joseph Wall's got a real opportunity here again.
Right.
With Stolar's out,
because
he's playing a lot.
Like, if you think about it, let's just, through 41 games, you could expect certain things. You could expect, Marner's going to get points and Nylander, and if Matthews is healthy, all of that. We had no idea what the goaltending was going to look like. Or, I'm sorry, how they were going to perform.
Mm-hmm.
Joseph Wall wasn't available game 1. Not available.
No kidding.
Stolarz goes on a run. And not on just a run, like goes on a ridiculous, like, goal saved above expectation, like a, top of the league type of, run. And then he all of a sudden pebble in the knee, or I don't even know what the injury was. It was like
little
something
procedure.
ridiculous. Procedure. 6
Just a
weeks,
procedure.
gone. Okay. Now Joseph Wall comes in, and then Hildeby comes up, and Matt Murray's back on the scene. Like, this could have, if you haven't
turned into a circus.
They weathered the storm very well
didn't have
as an
good
organization.
goaltending, as an organization, and the Tanev, McCabe, like the addition of the team and playing well in front of them certainly helps because they've won in different ways. They've outscored issues or they've played a tight 2-1 game. They've won in different ways. But the goaltending, regardless who's in there, has held up and played very well. That's been the biggest, I wouldn't say surprise, but, they're third in the league.
I think it's a separator. Yeah, I think that puts you in the position you're in.
Right.
Like you look at the teams at the top, Winnipeg being one of them. Hellebuck is doing it again, where you know what you're going to get out of him. Logan Thompson's been very good for Washington. They've had pretty good goal. Washington's been great, But the Leafs, they have weathered the storm very well during the regular season, for almost a decade now.
Yeah.
And you can roll your eyes on what that's worth, and it doesn't mean anything come playoff time. But there are franchises, and we can point to a number of them, the Rangers being a prominent one, where something goes awry and it just completely unravels, where this year it's happened with injuries. Last year there were times where Martin Jones was playing like 10 games in a row, and it didn't affect them. And they just continued to put it together.
Where is that guy, by the way? Is he playing anywhere?
Martin Jones, I think he is playing. I think he's in the American League somewhere. Isn't he a third string? I thought he went back out west.
Yeah, he is with a team out west.
I don't remember where he went. He's not on the radar.
I thought he was fantastic.
He played great for them last year. When they needed him, he was really good.
Unreal.
He came in one game, I remember, and stood on his head. He made like 11 saves.
Mm-hmm. He was outstanding for them.
Yeah, I'm going to find it right now. It's bothering me.
But yeah, they again, through 41 games, you're halfway home here if you're the Leafs. And if you're
playing.
Craig Berube, you got to be ecstatic. He's not playing. He's not signed.
I don't see the stats on him.
Wow. That's disappointing.
There's also people.
All the teams with garbage goaltending, nobody would have took a sniff on Marty Jones.
He might have wanted, sometimes your ask is like, hey, I had a good season last year. Maybe I'd want 1.2, and they're like, or 1.5.
But Jamie, it's like anything else. When you're in that position, it's whatever someone's going to give you.
I get it, but I don't see him. His last games, was last year with the Leafs. That's
disappointing. Disappointing.
People pointing out, I said surfing in Tofino. Did I not? People are saying they don't ski in Tofino.
Oh, okay. Why would anyone know Tofino?
Because people from BC are sending us notes.
Okay, good for you in BC.
But here's the
I'll
positive
grill you.
things.
Do you know what Kingston's known for? Tell me about Kingston.
Got
beer. I don't know.
He said Tofino. I thought he was in Italy. I have no idea what Tofino
Well, there
is.
isn't.
Is there a Tofino in Italy?
People are, yes, there is. And here's the other thing. People are golfing out there.
Yes, they are.
That's where we're getting notes.
That has been established.
If
you
you're
can golf
in BC,
in BC.
If you go out anywhere, in that area.
Tofino. Sorry, we didn't know everything about the city of Tofino.
The only thing I knew is Jay Bowmeister. Remember Jay? Like, he went out there. He loved it all the time.
Oh, I'm sure it's brilliant.
Brilliant.
I've never been there
once.
and I'm from Toronto.
Yeah.
I want to get people from BC. I want to get people from BC
to call in and be like,
and I'll grill you. Yeah, what is Sudbury known for? What's their nickname?
Isn't that the Nickel?
Yes, thank you. There you go. See,
I'm a Western guy, and
you know.
They got the big exhibits with the coins.
Yeah, they love the coins up there.
Is it the Nickel?
Big nickel spot. Yeah, it's a nickel.
Okay,
it's
good.
a nickel capital.
Tessa from there?
Tessa's a Sudbury girl.
So, Foligno.
Yeah, the Folinos, Randy Carlisle.
Yeah.
Randy's you know who else is from
Joe
there?
Bowen.
Joe Bowen. Ron Duguay.
Ronnie Duguay.
Ron Duguay was a Wolves legend from Sudbury.
Ronnie Duguay hates the Rangers right now.
Oh,
Chirps
man.
them all the
Does
time.
there's a lot of former Rangers.
Well, Messier's going off on them now.
And said that they got a culture problem or whatever. Like,
It's
I don't know.
ugly.
Whatever it is, it doesn't smell right.
No, it doesn't.
Watching that team, I watched them. Now, they won yesterday. They beat Chicago 6-2, and our buddy Louis Domingue with his spicy pork made some
Who
saves.
doesn't beat Chicago right now, though?
Well,
like Chicago's, they're in a bad place. They're in a bad place.
But I think, the night before I was watching them play, or the afternoon before, and I was like, what is going on with this team? It's just
they are so disoriented. But you got some good games tonight. You got Colorado, Florida tonight. And Montreal, Vancouver, this is worlds colliding because Montreal is on a heater and Vancouver is in one. Quinn Hughes could be a game-time decision tonight. Doesn't sound like Pettersson will play. But we'll get into that in the 6 p.m. hour. Danny Briere coming up, Chris Johnston as well. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, even though we have established that Al's brother is somewhere in the Bermuda Triangle right now, cruising around.
Would you call him your MVP?
Yeah, he was phenomenal. His tremendous information was great.
Really?
Like, he made some great picks down the stretch. He was really seeing the board well.
I thought you challenged him a few times.
Couple times. Jonas Seward us at one point. We tried to include Jonas in one pick, and he picked
I think you
wrong.
told Al's brother, like, if you don't get this one right, you're gone. And he got
there was
it right.
A point where
It
you
was
literally
very close
put his
to
feet
that.
to the fire.
Yeah, there was a game, I think the Falcons covered late on a Thursday night that was huge in overtime. Like, kicked a late field goal to push to overtime. They won with a touchdown in overtime to cover. It's week 4 or week 5, and that really turned our season around.
I will take the cake on dumbest pick of the year. We picked the 49ers in Buffalo because there was snow.
I know. They're from California.
No, but dude,
I
I don't care
understand that.
what kind of weather. Like, Buffalo was going to kill them.
They were going to crush them. You guys also picked the Jets against Buffalo late in the year, and Buffalo beat them 41-0.
Dude, I think we took the Dolphins in Green
know
Bay.
Yes, you did.
know what
You're
you
right.
should do?
Some of the worst picks
You
of
do
all
these
time.
lists, right?
I'll put a list
do
together.
top 5 list of worst picks.
And we had some awful ones
Doogie can-
too.
Yeah,
but
well, you can mix it in.
yes, we will.
Doogie can pull all of your picks and go, that was a
All right.
bad pick, that was a bad pick.
Okay. All right, we're going to do Al's Brothers Clue in the next hour.
Yeah, sorry, we talked.
We got off track talking about cruising and bad picks.
Do it top of the hour,
Right off the bat, Al's Brothers back with leave tickets. You got to find out where he is, somewhere in the city.
Okay,
Maybe he's in Tofino, British Columbia. That's possible.
not skiing,
Not skiing. You can't ski out
Surfing.
there. How dare you?
surfing.
How do you not know about Tofino, British Columbia?
Well,
Hour
it's
3
great
coming
weather
up.
there.
Beautiful
Great
weather,
weather.
great surfing. Shout out. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.